the extreme flavor a little bit, or do they prefer the traditional? That'll be a very interesting decision coming up after we have a look at the 13 and under boys forms division.
Now, interesting enough, we saw Angel in some of the SMA virtual competitions, so I was very interested. I was very jealous during some of the winter months because he, from if I remember right, from Puerto Rico, it was very warm there, and he was fantastic to watch. So it's good to see him in a live competition at CI Fairs.
Absolutely. And as we were talking about in the pre-show, it is wonderful that we have these virtual tournaments, especially through things like the sportmartialarts.com virtual tour. It's great that we have that resource for some of the competitors that weren't able to travel during the pandemic and for a number of reasons, because they've been able to hone their skills, and you'll see some of the skills that Angel Perez has been honing here.
And as you mentioned before, traditional kata, no music, displaying the power, breathing techniques. And I can hear him striking even through my headphones.
Absolutely. Now, this is a kata called Super Empe, very common traditional kata that we've seen performed here on the NASCA circuit, but very common because it's very effective. It's a long routine that shows off great endurance. There's a lot of great highlight moments, especially coming up at the end with a jumping kick technique as well as several horse stances. So this is a great form that many competitors use to show off a lot of their best strengths. And one of the things that I love about watching traditional forms like this is how a karate tournament can almost transition to like a golf tournament type of feel, right? I almost feel like I'm giving golf commentary right now.
You're starting to quiet it down.
Trying to stay hushed, paying attention to the focus, the concentration, as if Angel Perez was going to line up a putt instead of a punch.
This is true, but it almost acts as a calming effect. As you said, you want to have the audience honed in on the next move that you're going to make, the next move. And this type of traditional kata, you can hear it's absolutely silent here in this ballroom. And they're letting this young man perform, and you're hanging on every move.
Absolutely, and explosiveness is everything. So when a competitor has a form that is more slow-paced, more breathing techniques, and you have these long periods of silence, but then all of a sudden that competitor erupts into a quick series of movements, that can show off their speed to an even greater extent, which is exactly what Angel Perez wants to do as he gets to the climax of this performance here.
Actually, here's a little tidbit from a little inside baseball here. Angel, this is his first NASCA competition, and he almost left after winning. He did not know there were grand championships and grand runoffs. And someone had to go tell this young man that, wait, there's runoffs and there's a nighttime show. So I'm glad, whoever was, thank you, so that we could see this young man perform. It's interesting that almost happened. We almost didn't get to see this.
Absolutely. And that, for ladies and gentlemen, for those of you tuning in at home, that is not something that we see very often. It is very rare that a competitor can just show up to their first ever North American Sport Karate Association World Tour event, make it all the way to the nighttime show, make it all the way to the finals. That is incredibly impressive. Off the top of my head, the last person I can think of that did that was Aiden Considine when he made his debut all the way back. That was probably the 2011 or 12 AKA Grand Nationals back before they changed the name to the AKA Warrior Cup. And so it does not happen very often. And the last time that I remember it happened, it's a competitor that would go on to have an excellent career, still active now, represents Team Paul Mitchell and Aiden Considine.
Well, I know Mr. Perez knows now that if he places first, hang around a bit, only good things will come of it.
Absolutely, as he puts a nice finish to his routine there, and he'll show respect to the audience with a bow. A very nice Super Empe there.
Clean traditional kata.
Yes. And as we've seen in many of these junior divisions, that traditional kata will be contrasted with an extreme routine. Now we have Judah Sagawa taking the stage. Now Judah hails from San Diego, California, a student of Will Jackson at Freestyle Martial Arts. Team Freestyle, known for their team demonstration performances. They won a U.S. Open title in team demonstration just a few short years ago. One of the great products of that school would be Jacob Ellis, who competes for Team AKA. Many of our viewers might recognize that name, known for his choreography with his musical performances. And I'm sure that we'll see a little bit of Jacob Ellis influence in Judah Sagawa's form here. Now, Judah is a black belt competitor. You will notice that his belt does have some red on it. In many schools, that signifies a junior black belt. So this is a black belt division as he starts with the big double full, one of the biggest tricking techniques that we have seen all evening, a double full.
And he did that with ease.
Yes, no stumble whatsoever.
Also mentioned that Judah is also another virtual competitor that we've seen throughout all of last year and some of this year. So time well spent on the virtual tour.
Absolutely, and we see a signature hand combination there, lots of speed and power. Touchdown raise right into the cork, coming into the front stance with the punch right after, right into another hand combination. Skip over hook kick into the cartwheel, double leg full, taking it to the knee there. Now he's approaching the judges once again with the jump front kick. Drops down to a nice low stance there with the middle block, and then the signature finishing move as we see many of the team freestyle members using that one-handed punch into the air, something that Jacob Ellis always ended a lot of his routines with. And now that fist in the air again in celebration. Judah Sagawa knows that was a good one, and now it will all come down once again. Do the judges side with the traditional performance, or do they prefer the extreme martial arts? Now, for those of you that are wondering how the judges compare this, it does not purely come down to the preference, oh, well, this judge likes traditional or this judge likes the extreme. What the judges are looking for is the execution of technique within that division. So an average traditional form would not beat an exceptional extreme form, even if the judge tends to prefer the traditional, right? The judge is looking for the quality of that particular genre of performance, and that's important to keep in mind.
You know, just as you mentioned before, I think we do see a split in the judges, as you were talking about with Pia. Is this going to sway some of them as we see the judge as the scores come in?
Based on what I can hear here, we are waiting on that to be confirmed by the computer. It sounds like Sophia may have just edged out Isabella there, and she did. That might have been a 4-3 split, maybe a 5-2, but I'm pretty sure it was a 4-3 split in favor of Sophia, who is now the girls 13 under forms champion.
And Angel Perez with a 9.99 across the board. One thing that I will mention from Judah, as we mentioned, he was a virtual tour competitor. One of the interesting things that happened during his performance, as we were invited into the living rooms, the home dojos, the backyards, the front yards, parks, malls, these are all the places I've seen some of these virtual competitors complete. But while Judah was doing his performance, his dog thought it was time to play. and he had to work his way around his dog and still maintain the discipline and complete this form. It was one of the more highlights of what, we didn't know what to expect when starting this virtual tour. We didn't know how this was going to work. And as like I said, we were invited into people's homes. Sometimes you have to deal with the dog coming out or the little brother or sister. Some of the cute things were the Hamish little brother and sister that came out on camera and smiled while your big brother or sis was doing their performance, doing the virtual tour.
That is a great story. And also history being made by Angel Perez here this evening.
Yes.
He showed up at his first in-person NASCA event and won the overall grand championship. When I was thinking back to that Aiden Considine story, he was not able to win the overall grand championship. That night he made it to stage. Angel Perez showed up at his first ever NASCA event, made it all the way to stage, but he didn't come to take part. He came to take over, and he secures the 13 and under forms grand championship for the boys. Congratulations to Angel Perez. That is a remarkable accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not see that every day. It is extremely rare that a competitor wins their first ever appearance at a NASCA tournament, the overall grand championship. The most coveted award in our sport at every event is the overall grand championship. Angel Perez just did that.
That was pretty amazing.